Hello everyone and welcome back to your weekly PlayStation podcast, Talking the PS, where we round up all of your video game PlayStation news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, or up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. We have a great show lined up for you this week, talking about PlayStation 5's second year anniversary celebrations, nominations for the Game Awards, Next Gen Witcher, we finally have the details folks, a bunch of new game updates and much more. But before we do delve into all that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe and click that bell so you are kept in the loop with all of the great content we do here at Helix Cloud Games, like our first looks, our live streams and all of our wonderful great shows, just like the Xbox podcast, the XPass podcast, which I say every week in this manner and struggle to say it just like that, and of course CloudQuest, which goes up on Friday on free feeds. But our wonderful Helix Heroes get that up to 6 days early. Shout out to our Helix Heroes, by the way. There is some extra new content up available for you right now. Not only is this week's CloudQuest available, but there's also a very special episode of myself behind the scenes making the thumbnail for CloudQuest, because a couple of people were asking about it, and it's about half an hour of me dicking around, making the thumbnail, showing you how we do it, the reasons behind it, and do I lose the toolbar for Photoshop at some point and take 5-6 minutes trying to find out how the hell to get it back up? Yes, I do, because I'm an amateur. But we wouldn't have all that without my wonderful two co-hosts. Joining me this week, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm good. Happy birthday, by the way, for last week.
Thank you.
We said it on Twitter, and I said it in person, but
yeah.
I want to say it on the record as such. And below him, our chaotic neutral, whom's birthday is not until January, Mr. Rob. Welcome back.
Thank you.
How are you doing
You're
this
now
week?
the youthful one.
You know what? It's been a week.
It's been a week.
Yeah.
The Black Friday
The next
week?
time. Oh God, yeah. Just a shout out to anybody who buys anything in the next 2 weeks. Thank you, because that's what our job is. But also, there's lots of people working hard to bring you those discounts. So
yeah,
toss a coin.
An extra thank you to our, I guess, American listeners out there whom, without your support of this ridiculous holiday, Black Friday wouldn't exist in the UK, because it means nothing to us. We don't do Thanksgiving, and yet somehow it begins on the 10th of November over here now. It's not just one day now, it's a whole season.
No, it's the month. That's the thing.
It's crazy. We didn't even get Bonfire Night out the way here in the UK this year before it just went totally from the orange of Halloween over to Black Friday. However, though, as gamers and as consumers, of course, there's loads of wonderful deals out there already. I saw a PlayStation deal just today in Argos in the UK, which was a PlayStation 5 DualSense controller and a copy of Horizon Forbidden West on PS5 for $44.99, which, for those who don't know, that's cheaper than just a normal controller on its own, plus one of the best games of the year.
I spent £50 for the controller.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's a bargain.
It's also out of stock everywhere now, so if you listen to this on the Tuesday when the show goes live, keep your eyes peeled. It might be restocked.
It was probably, we've got a lot of stock of this. We want to get stock of this game. We want to get rid. We want to shift. Let's put a sale on.
See, I think it was an error, because the controllers are still on a cheaper rate, so you can still buy a controller outright for I think $44.99.
But it's as bad as the error that we talked about yesterday on XPass, the Forza one.
No, it wasn't quite that crazy of a discount. Yeah, keep your eyes peeled. I think I've bought a couple of games on Black Friday. I think I actually bought the Witcher 3 Game of the Year edition, which is in the news later on a Black Friday, because it was $12.99 for the disc copy, and I just think sometimes it hits a sweet spot where if you've had your eye on something, it's been in your peripheral vision for quite some time, and then anything around about the £10-15 mark's yeah, I'll commit, even though I might never get around to playing it.
Now you've got your Google refund as well.
Yes, I do. I've got some of my Stadia refund money, so that was quickly dispersed amongst other things, paying for a credit card, Christmas presents, and
you spent that as soon as you knew you were getting it.
Yeah, it was gone before it even hit my bank account. But again, hopefully they'll all go through successfully. One of the talking points I kind of wanted to get into at the beginning of the show, before we do get into the news, was, ironically enough, November 19th in the UK, past Saturday, just gone, tomorrow, for us recording on a Friday, was PlayStation 5's second anniversary. And that made me think, before we get into the news, why don't we have a little discussion about how the PS5 is faring and has fared over the last 2 years since launch? Because usually we dive straight into the news and based on the week's happenings, but I thought why not do something a little bit different? So we'll skip what we've been playing for now, because I feel like it might just be more of the same. Richie, God of War Ragnarok.
Yep.
Rob, Chivalry 2 and work.
Yep.
And I'm still
we'll probably talked about it yesterday and XPass.
That is
anyway,
true, yeah.
So.
We'll break into that. But yeah, so PlayStation 5. Me and Richie both have one. Rob, you're acquiring one for Christmas, I believe.
I am, yes.
So 2 years old, 19th of November, 2020. It launched then? That'll be right, yeah, if it's 2 years old. Don't know why I struggle with that math. So 2020 seems like such a write-off year. I don't believe anything of merit happened. But yes, during lockdown, during COVID, that Christmas, Xbox, PlayStation put out their latest consoles. Of course, we got it in Europe a little bit later than the United States and Canada. Not that it annoyed me. If anyone remembers, I don't know about you if you did, Richie, I got sent my controller about 2 weeks prior to the console launching because they dispatched them earlier.
Really? Yeah. See, I don't think there was any shenanigans for me, but I got mine through like a weird bolt-on thing with my phone contract, and it just like I didn't get it day one. I think it was like a month later or something. So
yeah, that might be. I ordered mine through Game in the UK, and for whatever reason, all the peripherals came out ahead of time. Because if you remember on the channel, I did a Stadia comparison for a Stadia controller and a PlayStation DualSense, and in the video, I actually say I don't have the console yet, so I'm just going to talk about the controller in its like aesthetic form. But either way, memories throw back to it. But to start off with, then 2 years in, I guess the first thing is availability. Rob, you're in the market for a PlayStation 5. Have you been able to secure one? Pre-orders? I think it's starting to even out a little bit now.
Yeah, it's fairly easy to get hold of one now. Like if you kind of know where to look, if you kind of rock up a game, and it might be a bit harder or whatever, but like availability's there, which is fine for the most part, I think now.
I mean, I haven't been looking to buy one, but I think in terms of availability, I always felt that it was initially it was a problem worldwide, but it seemed to be lingering more in America than over here.
Yeah, so that's one thing. I guess after 2 years, being able to get your hands on one is
quite key.
That's okay, I guess. But the bigger thing for me is like I've only just really had the strong urge to actually go out of my way and buy one, because when like the availability wasn't there and like there wasn't the titles at the start of the launch, I was like, well, I'm busy enough as it is. Like I've got my PC, like where I do most of my gaming on anyway. Like it's not worth the effort to go hunting or like sign up for like deals with like EE or BT when they were doing their kind of like bundles and stuff like that. And it's only really in year like I guess going into year 3 now, which I'm getting the overwhelming urge. Like I need to play God of War, which is essentially the only reason I'm buying it more than anything. But yeah, it's only just now that I've really got the urge, which kind of says something about the past 2, I think. Yeah. Considering I've always had every single PlayStation at launch in the past, going back to like PS2.
Yeah, it's something to be said about, I think, that extra hurdle of like really having to fight to get one early doors is if you don't have that initial drive or there's nothing you want to significantly play, why would you go through the routine of like getting yourself on a pre-order registration list or something like that when you could just, if you're patient, you could just hold off. And the reality is that you've got all probably like parents for the children who are like fighting other people in the toy store aisle to just get their hands on them, Turbo Man style. Whereas realistically, if you're an adult and you're like very aware of it and you already have like a really good PC setup or an alternative way to play good games, you're not left out in the cold. Whereas, yeah, obviously a lot of children out there just don't have anything and they want it as their go-to desirable present. Obviously the chip shortage, not Sony's fault, but I think they've coped quite well. I think the PS5 is still scoring records for the most sold in any particular given month or window. And basically it's the hottest commodity where anytime they do become available, they start selling out, which is, I guess, the best place to be. And we saw it with the Nintendo Wii back in the day. I remember I think my mother had to like really, really go through the most obscure means to try and get one for that Christmas for my sister, because everyone wanted one and they were out of stock everywhere. And I guess that's a good problem to have as a business. I
think that was probably one of the motivating factors for me, because I got mine through with EE through like a bolt-on deal that a friend of ours who worked for EE, he gave me a heads up that it was about to drop. They didn't, and then they had limited stock. But because I knew about the chip chip shortage and knew that getting stock would be difficult. Well, I didn't actually have the desire. I didn't need to have it as early as I got it. I wasn't planning to, but it was like an interest-free over like 1 year. It's like, rather than having to save up the cash to then pay for it, it's like, well, this is actually just a convenient way for me to pay for it, and I just get it now. But I think for the most of the last 2 years, I think it's been more of an upgrade of my PS4 rather than feeling like a console of its own right.
Yeah, that next generational leap's not been felt as much, which I think, because games look so good on the PS4 already, there was never going to be that, like the generational leap we got from the PS2 to the PS3 was, like, mind-blowing. But naturally, things have balanced out as technology's kind of plateaued a little bit. Obviously, games still look better year on year, but the overall consensus is they've looked gorgeous for like 10 plus years now.
And as I said on many podcasts, for me personally, the limiting factor is actually my TV now, because I've only got a 1080p TV. So the extra power of the PlayStation, like if I'm playing God of War right now, if I switch between performance mode and graphics mode, the only difference is the frame rate drops.
Right.
Because the increased like fidelity, the higher resolution, my TV can't display anywhere. So it's just not even noticeable.
Is this going to be one of those moments if you ever happen to be around my house and you saw God of War on my TV, you do that thing where you go, oh shit, that looks good.
The thing is, I mean, I've had that experience before around yours, but I still think actually for 1080p can look pretty damn good if you get things like the lighting and stuff and the textures like well crafted.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking at God of War going, oh God, that's ugly. I'm not looking at my TV going, that is desperate in need for an upgrade.
You make me sick.
Why it's why I keep holding off and like waiting till I get to the point where I go, no, it's time.
Yeah, you need, Richie, a Samsung Smart TV, I reckon, when all of like the cloud gaming stuff's on there. So like you can play your Xbox games on there with your Ultimate Pass. You can play Luna or whatever else is on there, I guess, nowadays. but
potentially rest in peace.
Yeah, but yeah, you've got that Stadia stimulus money, and Black Friday is, well, available now, I guess.
That money's spent.
So that aside, we acquired them. Accessibility is getting there. I think the scalpers now are starting to maybe get a bit panicky in terms of they've probably got this stock. You know for a fact there's going to be people out there who've still got cupboards of like 10, 15 of these consoles thinking, they're not as in demand anymore. I've made a mistake on acquiring this many, and good. Fuck you, scalpers.
Don't, like, honestly, for something like a trivial commodity like a PlayStation, don't ever buy that from a scalper, because when you buy from scalpers, you encourage scalping.
Yeah.
If no one bought from scalpers, all the scalpers would buy up all the stock and just be left with all this crap that they can't shift.
Yeah. Or they'll have to make a loss, more importantly, which is what you want. That's like the ha moment.
They have this stock that can't shift, and therefore the out of pocket is like, yeah, it screws them over.
Absolutely. So moving on from the initial launch then, I guess I want to reflect a little bit and look back on the actual hardware. So Richie, you mentioned there about the games PS4 to PS5 not looking too differently on a TV, but how's that SSD treating you and those load times?
This is a weird one for me because I had Stadia before PS5, so the big shift in terms of that performance of like the load times and stuff, I'd already experienced that with Stadia. I was already familiar with that. It was nice to have that in actually arguably better quality games that you get on the PlayStation compared to Stadia, but I'd already been spoilt.
Yeah, it blows me away that I don't have time to read the hints and tips on the load screens, because you get like halfway through the sentence and the game's booted up and you're good to go, and it's like, damn.
I genuinely think the days of like putting like expositional text like to pad out the world and stuff and start narrative driven games in like load screens, that day's gone because there isn't enough time.
I'm getting flashbacks from like entering a room on Skyrim and having to wait like 5 minutes for the interior of the house to load.
And you just see like a piece of armor, like
like the little fog.
Yeah, it will. I am actually intrigued to know because God of War Ragnarok has got those moments that are clearly put in there for loading purposes, when you go through a crack in the wall and you work your way through, or you slowly go through a doorway, and even the kind of the home screen, the load kind of menu where you're running through inside the Tree of Yggdrasil, and you're basically going in an infinite loop until the level's booted up and the doorway appears.
That's the only bit that I think is actually noticeable in Yggdrasil.
Yeah, and
the other stuff just feels part of the game.
Yeah, and I feel like that is in there purely because this game is still running on PS4. So those little gaps are required still because there is a PlayStation 4 version of the game. So it's always been built and designed from the lowest denominator, which will be the core base PS4. I think as we move away from that into years 3, 4, and 5, exclusive to PS5 only games, we should hopefully start to see those necessary loading buffers disappear a little bit. Yeah. And it's exciting to see.
I was saying before we started recording, I still feel like the PS2 hasn't really found its legs. The PS5 hasn't found its legs yet. And I think we're still in this kind of weird between generational state, which I think because of the pandemic, not only is it the chip shortage and harder to get your hands on the console, the way the pandemic has had the knock-on effect in terms of the software. Everything's been delayed for years at this point. So we're playing games that probably sometimes some games that have come out this year were probably slated to come out a year or two ago in the eyes of the developer, even if that wasn't made public. So we are in that transitional state, and it just feels elongated. Like we haven't fully transitioned across the generation yet.
Like, what's the argument for really making a game that pushes the PS5's kind of hardware at the moment? And there isn't one really. Like, if you can still kind of capture a bunch of people in the PS4 who are still haven't kind of made a transition over, like, it's very hard to kind of make a decision. Oh yeah, we're going to cut all these people off, make arguably a better game. On the table. Yeah, so it's like, as you said, it's like it's stalling game development, I think.
Yeah, there's been quite a lot on the news this past week about the Xbox Series S holding back game development because everything's been designed for that being the lowest common denominator. And then that's kind of passed on to people saying, well, have you seen the Nintendo Switch? But then there's so many third-party games that are not even, like, I don't think Activision even acknowledges the Switch's existence with, like, Call of Duty and stuff. It just doesn't, they don't even look at it. And then I think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's coming under some heavy criticism this week for running really, really bad, textures popping in, Pokemon glitching out of the world and stuff. And like, the Switch is 5+ year old now at this point, 6, 7 coming up,
and it was never highly powered.
It was always. I mean, the Switch is lower powered than the PS4 base, so it's already.
We've had this.
Many years behind.
We've had this discussion now, Discord, and I kind of feel like I don't care. For me, Nintendo's games don't have to be the most graphically beautiful, stunning, jaw-dropping experiences ever. But if you're making a game exclusively for a console, it should run well on that console. Otherwise, you've basically fucked up. Like, I don't think there's any other way to look at it. It's not like you're playing Pokemon Violet on other consoles and they've had to downgrade things to get it working on the Switch.
Yeah.
That was designed entirely for the Switch, so if that's performing poorly, that's on the devs, actually, to be honest.
So he's a theory I've heard.
I still bought it, though.
Yeah, I've got it pre-ordered as well. Yeah, I'm not getting it.
Which one?
Violet. No, Scarlet.
I went
Scarlet.
Violet.
I think
I went Violet.
Scarlet, I think. I can't remember. Whichever Pokemon on the front cover I like the look of the most, I think, is what my decision was purely based on. There are theories that, I mean, it's a total side switch from Pokemon and PlayStation. The Violet and Scarlet were supposed to be coming out on the Switch Pro, and because of chip shortages, that got delayed. So actually, the lowest common denominator a year or so ago for them devs was aiming for a Switch Pro spec, and then Nintendo turned around and went, we ain't getting the Switch Pro out in time. So the devs have had to went, oh shit, so you telling me we need to make this thing for the old model? And they've went, yes, and that's why it runs so bad, because this would have been the last game on the old console in theory.
Do you think the Switch OLED is there to bridge the gap? To get something out because they felt they needed some hardware out.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Because otherwise, yes, it's a better screen, but it doesn't feel. It never felt. I was never motivated to buy the Switch OLED, despite the fact that I want a more powerful Switch, because I look at it and go, it's just a better screen. The screen. So
you're back
on
in your
the Switch
TV situation now. It's just a better screen, and you don't need it.
It's not the problem that this device has. I love my Switch. That's why I want a more powerful one. So, like when I was playing Legends Arceus earlier this year, I was getting a lot of pop in. It just feels like surely we're past this point. Like, especially when the game is like largely about exploration and finding Pokemon in the world. when things don't pop into like the 10 meters in front of you, that's kind of a problem.
It is, as is life. But anyway, welcome to Talking the Switch, your weekly Nintendo podcast. To bring it back around then, so hardware seems to be doing a job. I do wish we had some little things here and there, but overall, what about the controller? You, Rob, you've not had a chance to spend any time with the DualSense.
No,
you've got one.
Yeah,
but it doesn't.
I got it when I signed up for the PS Plus, which I then had to get DualSense X to patch it in. But I have no bad words to say about the controller.
It is not a very good controller.
It's just an exceptional controller. And
do you get like the adaptive triggers and stuff with PlayStation Plus? I wouldn't have thought.
Not by default.
Yeah.
With like extra software laid in there, you do.
I'm pretty sure Miles Morales, which launched this week or last week at the time of listening on PC, I'm sure one of the selling points was haptics on PC, and our thing as well for that. So I think the official releases through Steam now do try and factor in that, because one of the great things about playing it on PC might actually be that I'm just looking for great experiences on PC. They focus more on the marketing than they do the actual specs of the game, processor, blah 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 blah. But that would make sense that PlayStation aim for getting that ticked off as well. But yeah, controller, absolutely love it. I do still wish we had more variation on the colours. So one thing that still always bugs me is that I look at Xbox and the design labs and think you can genuinely make any controller you wanted to with a combination and overlays and patterns like Richie's holding up right there for video viewers. And the fact I'm stuck with black, white, blue, red and pink after 2 years, just the block base colour is all I get.
I don't think any of the colours look good.
No, I mean the black one and the white one are standard.
I don't like the white one. I don't like the two-tone. I've never liked the two-tone aesthetic of the PlayStation 5. I think it looks ugly. The console and the controller's not too as bad as the console, but I just don't like it.
You're not used to it after 2 years?
I mean, I'm not looking at the controller, so I don't care. But it just, I don't think. It's just. The black one would be ideal, but I'm not buying more controllers just because I don't like the colour of my controller.
Whenever I look at anything PS5 related, I always feel like I'm watching Too Fast, Too Furious, like the movie. Like in terms of like styling, like it just seems like a 2000s kind of body kit Honda Civic in a way.
Get them spoon engines in there. So so that side thing, the control, like again, like hardware wise, absolutely nailed it. Color wise,
best controller there is in the market right now.
Need a bit more.
I'd argue it's better than the DualSense Edge because of the difference in price. I just do not see the value in the Edge at all.
I think the Edge is gonna hit hard for a lot of people just because it's just too much for a controller.
It's small. It's they're not planning to sell millions of them.
Absolutely.
It's priced for that reason.
Let's get on to the last point of this conversation then, gents, and that is, of course, the games, the video games, the PS5 exclusive games. I guess not exclusive because of the PS4 backwards compatibility. The games exclusive to PlayStation that you can play on your PS5. We've got a Push Square article up with the top 15 games. We won't go through them all, but I just wanted to kind of look back at 2 years and think, what have you had such a delight in playing that's been PlayStation 5 and PlayStation only, I guess. Richie, I'll throw it over to you. Where do you want to start with your favourite games?
I mean, I want to give an honourable mention to Final Fantasy VII Intergrade, which I haven't replayed on the PS5. I've jumped in to have a look because I have the game, but I'm planning on replaying that on the run up to, I can't remember the name of the next Final Fantasy VII, a part of this Final Fantasy VII remake. But I'm saving that one. But that looks phenomenal. But I think I've got to mention Ghost of Tsushima because it's rare that I will go back and re-platinum a game.
So this is the director's cut.
Yes.
That you played.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got a platinum on the PS4, then I jumped back in because Rob was talking about it on PS5, and I ended up getting the platinum all over again. Yeah.
I'm totally with you on that one. Ghost of Tsushima is, like, all things said and done, I was thinking about this at some point, I think, this week. I kind of still think I have enjoyed Ghost of Tsushima more than God of War Ragnarok. I haven't finished Ragnarok yet, but there's just something about, I think it was the fighting in Ghost of Tsushima that it just ticked every box for me in terms of what I wanted out of a
You
video
like
game.
a bit more the open world collector funniness, and there is a bit of that in Ghost of Tsushima more so than God of War.
A bit more of a dash of Ubisoft about it.
Yeah, God of War is a bit more linear, a bit more structured in terms of the narrative. So I wonder if that's part of it.
That's true, yeah. Ghost of Tsushima, of course, technically a PS4 game, but the director's cut PS5 looked best.
It's a full PS5 upgrade.
It was a full release. It wasn't just a patch, as they say. Rob, how about you? Anything that you've played aside from Ghost of Tsushima?
So I played through the Final Fantasy VII remake on a friend's console, and like I loved it. And in terms of like an updated version of Final Fantasy, like it's fantastic. But for me, it's still like, I know it's a really big, involved remake, but it's still showing me like stories and characters which I've already seen before, and it's really hard for me to kind of get pulled in on stuff like that. So that it was fantastic, but I'd say it.
I mean, if it's like a base of you've played this story to death, I'm done with it. That's.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to say it's a positive thing. It's like, well, there's nothing the devs could have done to fix that.
Oh no,
the story is the story,
but it goes on this overarching theme of what the PS5 is in my head, and it's just at the moment, like barring like the last 2 weeks when God of War hit, like it's been retelling stories which I've already experienced, which
I think that's a fair comment.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of delayed my hand, really.
And I do think that's, again, a big part of, I think, why the PS5 has seen so much success is because everyone who maybe didn't have a PlayStation 4, they've been very savvy in bringing all of the best games from the PS4 generation, which puts Sony in the lead, absolutely hand over fist, compared to the Xbox One. All they've done is basically polished everything up and relaunched it. So you've got Death Stranding Director's Cut, you've got Ghost of Tsushima, you've got The Last of Us Part 1 that was remade as well. What else did they do that came out? You've got the Spider-Man packaging. Spider-Man and Miles Morales were... Obviously, Miles Morales launched with the PS5, but also it was available on PS4. But you've got such big tentpole titles that have all had a bit of love and TLC, and have been kind of relaunched or re-upgraded to a point where I don't think there's many of Sony's last generation top-tier games that you cannot play in the best version ever on the PS5, which if you've never had a PS4... that's like a phenomenal starting point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because we mentioned that we kind of feel like because of the many, many delays caused by COVID, is this kind of one of the things they've done to mitigate it by updating games that already exist, give them that touch of polish, that step up in quality, so there is new stuff still coming out.
Yeah.
You can re-experience this game in a better... Like Ghost of Tsushima went from 30 frames per second to 60, and it does actually change the way that game feels and the way you interact with that game. I found myself actually fighting differently in that game because of that difference.
Yeah, it does make a big difference. And again, I guess it's just smart business, right? Going back to the well with a well-tested VS product that you know sold well, it must cost them the least amount of money to get a small team to work on these, like, essentially patch upgrades and such. So, like, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves, you've took one of the best Uncharted games, the spin-off Lost Legacy, do a couple of improvements with probably a small team of, 10 developers, repackage, republish it, and able to sell it for, like, £50 to £70 again. And you know people will buy it because you'll have all the big like, top quality fans who hold it in such high regard they're buying it regardless. You've got all the people who never bought it before, and then you put it out at a time when people are looking to play stuff because the market's quite quiet because of COVID and such. And you've got word of mouth of people saying, "Oh, you never played it first time. Oh, get on this one." Like, you've not played Lost Legacy yet, right, Richie?
I've platinumed it.
Oh, which one? Oh, which one wasn't it? Well, there's lots of games I recommend.
I played all the Uncharted.
You didn't play them originally, though, did you? You took time to get around to Lost Legacy.
Yeah, that was one of them, like Shadow of the Tomb Raider is now, where it was on the list for a lot. It was installed on my PlayStation for a long time before I finally got round to it.
Yeah, but I think to kind of hone everything in, if we just look at like this year alone, Horizon Forbidden West, fantastic game. For me, The Last of Us Part 1, best version of The Last of Us ever, and The Last of Us is one of the best games of all time, so that cannot be a bad thing. And then God of War Ragnarok. That is 3 stellar hits for PlayStation and Sony this year. And that's on top of everything we had last year. We had Returnal, if I remember, was PS5 only. They launched with Demon's Souls, PS5, so kind of the year before. And I think when you look at all the competition, we just spent 10 minutes talking about how shit Pokemon's running on Switch is their exclusive. And then you mirror that against something like Forbidden West, which is one of the most gorgeous games I've ever played. And they're taking, not necessarily Pokemon, but they're taking these brand new creatures and the robots and such and giving them life and animation, and it looks so good. There's a certain certainty about when I look through this list of PlayStation games. I think back to what Rob was pointing out, like the reason to want to get in on that PlayStation 5 life is like the list of exclusives that you can only play here is just top tier. I don't think anyone in the industry, Xbox, Nintendo, even comes close in terms of AAA quality.
I'd agree. In terms of quality of titles, like Sony still hold like the beacon of like the big 3 competitors. How long it stays that way is anybody's guess, but at the moment they still do excel in that.
I think we're going to be in a very different place in another 2 years than we are now.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're largely out the other side of the pandemic. Game development will start getting back on track. Developers have had the dev kits for the PS5 for a bit longer now, so they'll be more familiar with it. The next generation of engines will be finally out. I think it's from this point forward. I think wasn't God of War the last Sony exclusive that was cross-gen?
Yes, as far as we're aware. Obviously, they could still turn around and say the next lot are, but
that feels like a pivotal moment in the lifespan of this console. It feels like we are going to go ahead now. Sony's probably going to prioritise making games PS5 exclusive, and I think games will see the benefit from that.
Absolutely. And to round out this part of the conversation, I guess the best thing for me is we've had Returnal, we've had the Spider-Mans, we've had Ratchet and Clank, we've had Ghost of Tsushima, we've had Last of Us and such. All these developers now are working on the next PS5 exclusive. So we know Guerrilla are going to be on to the next Horizon game because I think they've already confirmed it's going to be a trilogy. We don't know what Naughty Dog are working on after The Last of Us Factions. Ghost of Tsushima 2 inevitably will be out in a few years. The next Returnal game, there's just so much that's now like their initial slate is out the way within these first 2 years. Like you said, Richie, they can just totally commit to next gen now, and I think that's when we're going to see everything elevated to that next point.
Like, going back to the Switch briefly, it feels like the Switch is at the end of what that console can physically handle. But it feels like the PS5 is yet to be properly tested.
Yeah, it'll be another 5-6 years, I think, before we get to the end of it. I can't wait. It's going to be exciting. To round that out then, gents, if you were to put a grade on the first 2 years of PlayStation, so American style, A+, B-, C, that kind of thing, what would you give the first 2 years for overall? Rob, we'll start with you.
Oh, it's really hard because do you compare it against Sony's previous standard or do you compare it against the standard?
Just your own personal grade.
It's in right now.
It's just a letter, so which doesn't really mean
it means
anything.
a lot. These letters mean a lot to people, okay? I would say a B. A B, maybe B-.
Okay. Richie?
I only do that. No, I'm giving context because someone will get pissed off in the comments or something, right?
No, on the internet?
I take that in comparison to PS4, and Sony's standard has always been much higher when it comes to kind of, especially exclusives and kind of titles. That's why it's a B in relativeness to Sony.
Okay. Richie?
Yeah, I was actually thinking B- myself. It's not been bad by any stretch of the imagination. There's myriad of caveats while we've already discussed why I think it is where it is. And I think it does need, to elevate it beyond where it is right now, it needs them exclusives. Not console exclusives necessarily, but generation exclusives. So whether it is games that are for the Xbox Series and the PS5, but where at the moment I do feel I'd probably give the Xbox Series X the same grade, to be honest. It feels like the last generation of consoles is still holding these ones back a bit.
You give the
But
Series
now I
X
think
the
that
same grade?
I haven't got a Series. Yeah, probably like round in term because they have the same. We'd have the same issues.
I said games let them down massively, but
from what I've played of my Series S, like yeah, I've been perfectly content. But there again, that I'm coming in that very different context from my PS5.
Absolutely.
So what about you, Chris?
Teetering on probably B plus, maybe. Just because I don't think they could have done much more. They got 2 AAA games out this year, best in class. 1 remake that was stellar. I think maybe to hit a top year, you want a AAA exclusive every quarter to kind of like round out every 3 months. Someone's ready for something new. I think with the problems with the whole botch launch of PlayStation Plus, I think that brings them down a little bit. But I think everything else, we've mentioned the controller, accessibility. I think they've just done everything within the power they possibly could have done. I do think, though, they need to stop being so like nonchalant, we're the best, arrogant PlayStation and Sony in terms of the marketing and the way they hold themselves at the moment. But that's a conversation for a different day.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I guess we're judging like the console in isolation. If you were to like give a grade to the direction Sony's taken or the grade that Microsoft's taken, that becomes a very different conversation compared to console v console, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to give them a grade in terms of the direction they're taking, it's a C at best. There's stuff that it feels like, I mean, we've talked loads of times about how the PS Plus changes and cloud gaming just feels forced upon them rather than something they want to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And as the market leader, they're always going to be, the market leader according to the Activision Blizzard deal lawyers, they're always going to be a bit brazen and kind of just do what's best for us. You kind of see it a lot with Apple. Like, even though their products necessarily aren't the best, they always act like they are. And I think being number one,
you need to innovate while you're ahead, though. Yeah. Otherwise, you don't stay ahead.
Exactly. But so that's our conversation around ranking the PS2's first 2 years on market. Do let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are. Do you love your PlayStation? Do you wish they could have done more? What's going on with the games? Let us know below. Story number 2, or I guess not story number 2, that's my usual route. We need to get into the news, gentlemen, for the back half of this show. So, Rob, if you could do us the honours of introducing us to the
properly prepared PlayStation Cruising Points. Out of sync, the news.
The news.
Yes, much later, and of course, sponsored by our Helix Heroes. This week's news is sponsored by 2 newest Helix Heroes, James Middleton and Hjorvar Ingi. Welcome to the Helix Hero Membership Club. Your patronage is appreciated, and thank you very much for your support, gentlemen. Enjoy CloudQuest episodes up to 6 days early. Enjoy the very special behind-the-scenes thumbnail video that just went up, talking the PS 1 or 2 days early, stickers and badges next to your name, and much more. And if you want to sponsor the show, you can do that by clicking join below on the YouTube video from as little as 99p. We do appreciate everyone who supports us, but more importantly, it gives us money to put back into the channel for better content and production value, hopefully. News, gentlemen. So we've covered off that. The Game Awards, they're a thing. We're probably going to stay up late and cover it on the channel, as we tend to do every year. I might use a holiday day. We mentioned it pre-show. I might use a holiday day to sleep in and recover.
I'm also debating that.
Because it is a Thursday, and we did find out this week, thanks to the amazing people in our Discord group. I thought it was at 5 p.m. UK time. It's not. It's 1 a.m. in the morning UK time. And that's because...
That sounds about more right.
Yeah. Well, it usually has been, and that's what caught me off, because I basically Googled Game Awards 2020, and Google's response says 5 p.m. all times at UK GMT. Whereas actually when you look at it and do the conversion yourself, it is not. It is 1 a.m. in the morning. So yeah, but it's kind of a tradition here on the channel that we still play. We have a few drinks, don't we, Richie? And we watch along. Inevitably, we get copyright struck for all of the songs that they play over the trailers.
Jeff Keighley's great. Every year you can sign up. He'll send you like a content creators pack, so you have all the assets and stuff. So you look a proper official, and then you get copyright struck because one developer will just put a licensed song in there.
Or they have a live band playing music, and then they play like the latest smash hit single, and it just screws you over. But we're there for the games, and for the first time ever, because we no longer cover Stadia on the channel, we'll actually be there genuinely covering PlayStation and Xbox, which is exciting because the stuff that we see will actually be relevant to the shows that we host. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, as opposed to just saying, yeah, that's not coming.
Yeah, that's not coming to Stadia. That could come. There is a slight tangible connection because the developer put a game out 3 years ago.
They haven't said it's not coming, which is a victory.
Take a shot for every game that won't come. But jokes aside, we're looking forward to it. Hopefully you'll stay up late and join us, or you'll catch up after the fact. But yes, we'll book in that, get that sorted. We're not going to go into the nominations necessarily. All the categories are up, Game of the Year. What I would encourage you to do is log on to thegameawards.com and vote. Drop your own vote in for Game of the Year, Best Narrative, Best Art Direction, Accessibility, Esports, all that kind of jazz. And we will have, Richie, a special episode of CloudQuest that will go up just before the Game Awards covering this, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it'll be the regular scheduled CloudQuest, but rather than it going up on the Friday with the Game Awards being on the Thursday, I'm going to launch that episode on the Wednesday, so the day before.
Wonderful. Or if you're Helix Hero, even earlier. Wonderful stuff. Game Awards. Cannot wait. Before we do get to the Game Awards, though, story number 2 of the week, Witcher 3 next gen version has a release date. Reading from Push Square, The Witcher 3 PS5 release version will be coming on 14th of December, and there will be some more details and information coming this week. So if you're watching this show on the Tuesday, CD Projekt Red have a short presentation that'll be on their own social feeds, basically covering what to expect. But we knew it was coming. We knew they took it off who was it? It's the one based in Russia who was working on this port, and then they took it off them. Deep Silver, I want to say, off the top of my head.
I was thinking Saber.
Saber Interactive could be, either one of those two. It was taken from them. They kept going back and saying it was coming at the end of the year, and then we crept into November and still had not said nothing. So just over 1 month away, actually less than a month away. Witcher 3 Next Gen, and more importantly, it's going to be a free update for anybody who already owns the game. So that's all of us, right?
Yeah, this is my Christmas gaming.
That's what I'm thinking, Rob. That's what I'm thinking, because obviously you've played much more before, right?
Yeah, I've played most of it, but it's just I need big chunks of time to sink into a game like that, and it needs to be in front of a TV, not on my PC version. That's fair.
So yeah, that's fair. I think everyone on the channel knows my history. I started it, I think, twice, and the furthest I've got is with the goat in the forest, and something to do with a hobgoblin baby or something. And
botchling.
And then botchling baby, and then I think I got into the caves, some random cave somewhere, and I met some kind of witch creature in a well maybe, and then something else got in my way, and I never had the time to commit to it. And I know I love this game if I just have the time, but it's such a daunting prospect. I, like you, Rob, I'm thinking right, Christmas, if I can get Ragnarok out the way, I already own this game, get it on the PS5, get it in its best visual fidelity, and I need to get in and enjoy this, because I love the TV show. I enjoy everything about the game. I just haven't played it as much yet, so it's one for me for Christmas, definitely. And December 14th is like bang on, winding down for Christmas. Get some gaming in.
I might have to jump back in myself, because I don't have the platinum in it.
Was it one more playthrough for the platinum for you?
I definitely needed one more playthrough, but there was also I think there was a few missable Gwent cards that I'd missed.
Damn the Gwent cards.
So I was going to be
Gwent.
Gwent is actually a really fun game.
Yeah, but it should be its own game.
I love playing Gwent.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? But I feel wrong if you got the platinum in this before me.
I don't think I'm going to go for the platinum. One, because I detest in-game card games, unless it's Marvel Snap. You played Marvel Snap yet, Richie?
No.
Damn you.
Play Gwent. Gwent is better than Marvel Snap.
It's getting your head around the rules, and it's mini games. It's like fishing in games. Why does it, unless it's a fishing specific game, fishing should not be in video games, okay?
No, once you get into the music of Gwent, that's when you get hooked.
The official soundtrack of Gwent.
Yeah, it's like I can't remember what it's called.
Approach Gwent with an open mind. I don't think you actually have to play that much Gwent. Actually, no, there's an entire storyline based around Gwent.
Yeah, that doesn't feel me. Either way, I'm looking forward to the game, and I can't wait for the next gen version to come out so I can enjoy and play it. Moving on, though, next story, sticking with CG Projekt Red. Don't know why I paused for so long there. Cyberpunk DLC. We knew it was coming. We knew it was announced. Phantom Liberty confirmed to be coming, of course, with the return of Johnny Silverhands, aka Keanu Reeves, reprising his role. They announced from their global PR director, they confirmed the news to Games Radar earlier on this week, that the DLC, or expansion as they're referring to it, will be traditionally cheaper than full-price games, which I think caught a lot of people off by surprise because unlike The Witcher's Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine DLC, which were free, it appears
they were paid.
Sorry?
Hearts of Stone and
Blood
and Wine, both, they were both paid for.
Why?
Yeah, but they weren't like...
So with CG Projekt Red's approach to DLC is free, but if this is why they use the word expansion. So if there's a genuine story expansion, it's not just like, we're going to put a few quests in, here's a new storyline. That's when they tend to do paid stuff.
Right. I'd always had in my head, again, as I've just explained, didn't play The Witcher at launch or around. In my mind, I'd always thought they were free. But
I think you might be getting mixed up where it's like the ridiculously good value for like the amount of content you get in them. Like it's insane how much content those like the two kind of
quite
dropped.
possibly. Either way, a lot of people had it in their mind that this Cyberpunk expansion was going to be free, and it's not going to be. And I think that caught a lot of news outlets off by surprise, and they're all coming out going, "It's paid! What the hell?" Richie, you're the only one of us who actually finished Cyberpunk. On
Hey, no
Google
way, I
Stadia.
finished it.
Did you?
Yeah. I went back
wow.
and after the update.
All right then. So now we have that news, Rob. It won't be coming out on Stadia, so Richie's playthrough is gone. His entire save file, unless he wants to.
Yeah, so's mine.
Jump through all the. Oh, you both did it on Stadia. Okay.
Yeah.
Idiots. You fools. This DLC.
I've got my save file in my Google Hangout, and I think people have had success porting it over to PC.
Oh, well, there you go.
Oh, really?
Okay. In terms of the Phantom Liberty DLC, then, Rob, with Johnny Silverhands and such, what price would you expect? Because I'm imagining they're going to give it the same amount of love as the Witcher DLCs had, just to garner them some goodwill as well. I think if it comes out half-baked or half-short, that might come in for some criticism. Because people are going to expect Witcher levels of quality, right?
Oh, yeah. Then they have to deliver on it.
And
like,
after all the shit
Bugfest
shows.
Yeah. It's really difficult, though, because, like, the amount of content to give out, I would... If we're assuming it's the same kind of standard as a Witcher DLC, I'd happily pay, like, 25, 30 quid for that, just for the sheer amount of content. But you then have to, like, level in the fact that they need to win some grace back. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, maybe, like, I think they'll probably come in about 20 quid-ish, maybe.
Because this is the risk, is because they have got a lot of good praises back by the success of Cyberpunk Edgerunners on Netflix. Phenomenal show. Mm-hmm. You watched it yet, Richie? I recommended it to you. Oh, you don't have Netflix?
No, I'm going to... December. And, of course, all the patches that came out, it was like the highest played game on Steam, I think, all of last month. It sold tons of copies. So I feel like they've got in their good books. What they don't want to do now is just pull the rug out from under them by charging like £40 for this DLC and it being half-baked. And then we're right back at square one. Everyone goes, they did it again. They promised us they'd fix everything and they've gone and done it at the next crack of the whip. Regardless of the price, this game cannot be half-baked. Mm-hmm. It has to be polished to the level that Cyberpunk is now. Yeah, it has to. It can't be come out as a broken mess again, because that I think could kill the company. But yeah, so that's completely separate to the price of me. But I think depending on how long it is, I'm thinking probably the £30 mark, because they'll probably put a lot of time and effort into this, knowing exactly how vital this piece of content is for them as a company. So they'll want to have a bit of a return.
Good stuff. Right then, moving on away from CD Projekt Red, as I'm sure we'll be talking about a lot as we head into Christmas and the New Year. Pivoting over to Crystal Dynamics, they put out a couple of surveys, of course, recently acquired by the Embracer Group. And one of the things they put out was a survey about what games that they now own, or they own wholeheartedly under the Embracer ban, that you'd like to see. And after having thousands of responses, over 100,000 in fact, it turns out that people are asking for the Legacy of Kain to come back. Now, I've never played a Legacy of Kain game. I'm aware of it. I'm aware that famed Uncharted director Amy Hennig helped write the game. Either of you two ever played or touched Legacy of Kain?
Can't say I have.
Apparently 73,000 gamers completed this survey and opted for Legacy of Kain to come back. So it's clearly got almost... I feel like it has a cult following, but I don't know what it's about.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know. Is it cult following, or did it go like mainstream and we just didn't play it?
I mean, potentially. The original one came out in 1996, so I don't remember back at being 6-year-old being really aware of it, and I think the last entry was about early 2000s. So kind of the age range where if our parents weren't buying us the game or our friends weren't playing it, we probably didn't really click with it or be aware of it. The game looks like some kind of just like 3D platformer fighting game. I'm sure that's doing it a disservice, but Crystal Dynamics, looking at it, my big question though is why would they do this and not give us a new Gecko game, guys?
Gex dated in a different way. Gex is dated in a way that is probably problematic nowadays.
Why? He's just a talking gecko. There's nothing wrong with that.
He's that kind of 90s. It's all about attitude.
He may have sexualized women, Alicia Silverstone amongst others, and rocked some cocktails and said some wrong things. But he's an innocent gecko who saves the world from the Pixel Rex bad guy.
All right, I have a story time here. Okay.
All right, go for it.
Story time.
So
Story time.
I can't remember what the actual magazine was called, but it was a PlayStation, like 1 magazine, and it was like it wasn't like one of the big ones which we have now. It was like an indie one which is like died off now.
The PlayStation Max.
It might have been or something like that. Yeah, because didn't PlayStation Max had like the skin you can put on the controller?
I had that, and I also had the power button on my PS1 was like a poop sticker.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, PlayStation. It was PlayStation Max, right? So I bought an episode of that, which had I think Gex 3 on the cover, or Gex 3D on the cover, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And like, I put the magazine in my usual spot for magazines, which was like under my bunk bed.
Yeah.
Which like was like a metal one. And then I came in for school one day, a couple of days after buying this magazine, to my mum sat in the living room looking really pissed off at me for having this PlayStation magazine, and it was because the cover art was some girl, I don't know who she was, topless, and then Gex was like covering her bajangas. Like, and my mum just thought it was a porn magazine, didn't look at anything else, just looked at the cover and was like, where have you got this from, Rob? She thought I found it like a bush or something, like you used to do in porn.
So I haven't found that cover. I found it. I think it definitely was PlayStation Max because I collected these as well. The lady in question probably was Alicia Silverstone because she was in the third game, I believe. So it was probably that one, Deep Cover Gecko. I think she was like the Bond girl of that game. But yeah, PlayStation Max had some like proper bright, colourful covers on there. But yeah, I found that one. PlayStation Max. Alicia Silverstone. See if we've got a picture of the.
I never want to see this franchise.
Nope, I'm just
brought
getting
back
pictures
to life
of...
because of that.
Oh, what? You loved it. You loved it.
The thing, if we're being realistic here, in order to bring Gex back, you'd have to completely rewrite the character.
Nope. Didn't do it with Destroy All Humans. Don't need to do with this. He was also Crypto was also very inappropriate, even in the remastered ones. Just embrace it. It was a time. It's for kids. Kids don't know what the jokes means. Embrace it. Either way, save the Gecko, save Legacy of Kain, give us a new Tomb Raider, whatever's going on over there. Embrace it are definitely moving things around because the next story of the week comes from that same family. Saints Row developer Volition will become part of the Borderlands makers Gearbox under the Embrace It Group umbrella. So it looks like they're shuffling some chess pieces around, and somehow the Saints Row game that was poorly received this past summer. I played it. There's a first look up on the channel. Didn't go back to it after my first look, bar maybe an hour or two here or there. Just didn't work for me. I would not recommend. Of all the games we discussed at the beginning of the show, don't waste your time with this Saints Row reboot. So either way, apparently it's made what they expected in terms of finances, but it just didn't hit as well. There is a big update out this week, by the way, Bright Future, if you want to go check it out. But either way, the developers have been moved under the Borderlands Gearbox umbrella. I just wanted to throw this out to you guys and say, like, what does that actually mean? Because they're all owned by Embracer, but evidently this team is now, I guess, going to be looking after Borderlands projects possibly in the future. Like, that's Gearbox's main go-to thing. Or do you think? Because I think Saints Row is dead in the water now. I think this was the chance. They could have revitalized it and it would have done numbers. It didn't. I can't see them putting out in a boardroom. I can't see them sitting down and going, should we make a sequel to this game? Because I just don't think it's got juice anymore.
No.
I think this is more about Gearbox rather than Volition, to be honest. It seems like it's giving Gearbox a larger portfolio of studios to work on under them. Is probably part of doubling down on the Borderlands extended like franchise with things with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands and stuff, and Tales from the Borderlands. It could also be to give Volition that oversight from Gearbox, who are actually good at making AAA games. Where we've discussed before, where Saints Row always felt like a 2.5A kind of game.
Yeah.
And this one was meant to try and step into the AAA game in its own right, but didn't feel, from what I didn't play it myself, but from what the reviews and stuff, doesn't feel like it quite managed it.
Not at all.
So maybe having a bit more oversight from a company like Gearbox might help them in the next project make that step up, because I think it does appear to be Embracer wanting to step in to become a actually well-revered AAA developer. You look at things like the buying Crystal Dynamics and stuff, probably for the same reason, where until now they've been known for like bringing back older titles and like the AA kind of standard games.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably part of that whole kind of how do we take that step up as a publisher.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. How about you, Rob? You're a businessman. What do you think of moving all of these people around? Because they all still work for the same company at the end of the day. Just evidently they're not trusted to be on their own, I guess is how you would look at it.
I think it's just like, it's going to be a trend where like lots of teams just get shuffled around and kind of all into a mixing pot, really. And there'll be some guy who's like got like a head of strategy title who has to like kind of justify his existence, who's like, yes, I'll move these chess pieces here, and that will. I think the goal is to like do 2 + 2 = 5, and kind of get a situation where
find that magic formula where it's greater than the sum of its parts.
Exactly, yeah. That'll probably take a lot of trial and error, but if they get a couple of gems out of it for every kind of dud, then it probably works well, like in the long term for them.
I mean, if you're at Volition and you get told we're moving over to Gearbox, that's a win for you. You go from working on Saints Row to Borderlands, which is a step up in probably a lot of people's estimation. So it's like, hey. And then they get told they're actually not working on Borderlands. They're making a new monetized loot box IP for games as a service or some horrible nightmare like that. But yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. Just off the back of this one, Gearbox also welcomed the Risk of Rain developers to the family. So over at Hoppo Games, makers of the Risk of Rain franchise and IP, they're now also part of Gearbox. So that's one thing, Richie. While we've been covering Embracer's kind of secret stealthy organization buyouts behind the scenes for 3 years now, is they make such odd announcements. Like, so Gearbox have acquired the Risk of Rain devs, not Embracer in this particular instance, but they're all owned by the same umbrella company, and it's, you know what I mean? It's a bit of like, feels like a bit of like puppeteering from behind the scenes, because Embracer don't really like doing anything front and center. They're acting as though it's Gearbox who's made this decision. It's like, well, actually, there's powers above you that are doing
like what
that,
moves without your say so.
I think you're probably right in that. I think Embracer are trying to maybe dissociate themselves a little bit and like kind of put like, okay, Gearbox are going to head up part of our portfolio, then another company's going to head up another part, and so on and so on. Have they bought Hoppo Games, or is it they've just bought the Risk of Rain IP though? Because you never know, Volition might be working on the next Risk of Rain game. It's
a good question. The tweet that they put out from the Risk of Rain social said, after years of passionate publishing work on Risk of Rain 2, we have developed a deep love and respect for the IP. We're eager to prove ourselves worthy custodians by continuing to bring you world-class content and ensure a bright future for this genre-leading franchise. As for right now, we're working hard to bring Risk of Rain 2 Survivor the Void DLC to console. We can't wait to share more details. It just says Gearbox welcomes Risk of Rain to our family, and then it's got both logos, but there's no actual press release. It's just a tweet. So,
yeah.
Who knows? Guess we'll find out. I mean, Risk of Rain wasn't really one for me. I don't really see how
it's done well for the channel.
Yeah, true, but I don't base everything on that. Moving on, though. Moving on. Final few stories for the week. The Dark Pictures Anthology have continued their tradition of teasing the new titles. The latest entry in the so-called Dark Pictures anthology, The Devil in Me, included a teaser trailer for the next game in the series, which will be titled the Dark Pictures Anthology Directive 8020. Or 8020, depending on how you want it, is labelled for Season 2 of the series. Rob, I'll throw it over to you. You've dabbled in some of these games from Supermassive.
Yeah.
Of this. What do you think of it? One, being a Season 2 of a bunch of titles, and how have you found them so far?
I mean, I've liked them for what they are, and I think it's a very specific type of gamer who enjoys these types of titles. I think it's kind of unfair how they always just kind of go under the radar and things like that, but I'll probably check this out once it's on sale.
Yeah.
As opposed to full price.
I've said many times before, I think the Dark Pictures anthology, I forget it's even a thing for big stretches of time. But the thing I find hilarious, actually, is the Gematsu article that we're using as a source here. It's got an embedded YouTube video of the teaser trailer, which has been copyright claimed by Bandai Namco. You do not put trailers from Bandai Namco on your YouTube channel.
Chris immediately stops playing the video for this week's Dark Pictures anthology.
Were you playing it?
I was, yeah. Because I think it's just a clip of the video. But yeah, then you said it. Yeah, so this deal, even though it's Supermassive Games, it's published by Bandai Namco.
Yeah.
So they're funding these 8 games. I'll make sure in the edit I'll cover that with a picture of Richie.
It's like, come on, Bandai. Literally, I'm reading an article about this game and I can't watch the trailer.
Bastards.
Because of your aggressive copyright striking. It's like, you're shooting yourself in the foot on that one.
Yeah. Either way, maybe we'll get around to playing these when there's the actual anthology is purchasable in one bundle. Because some of these are free on PlayStation Plus. I think Man of Medan and Little Hope, I think what the second one was. Town Little Hope, something like that. Either way, there's that many. They all kind of look the same and it get a bit confusing after a while.
I mean, a Season 1 heat box set would be probably quite nice.
Weird that they're going Season 2 though now. What defines Season 2? You just put them out when they're ready.
I haven't played the games.
Yeah, so. And none of them are linked really, so either way. Yeah, there isn't a Season 1, it's 4 separate games as far as I'm aware. Did they throw The Quarry into the mix? Because that game came out in the summer. Yeah. Who knows? I tell you what we won't be seeing anytime soon though. The long-delayed, republished Dead Island 2, which was announced at Summer Games Fest, has been delayed. From its February launch date, February the 3rd, we were expecting this next year. It's been pushed back to April 28th. So not too much long to wait, just a few short weeks from the fact. Dead Island 2, do anything for you two?
Dead Island 2.
I'm bored of hearing about this game, and it's not even out yet.
It has been 7 years, it feels like, so now it's bubbled to the surface again, and it got loads of good praise. They've gone and delayed it again, so it can bubble back down. And to be fair, I do think getting out of that, I actually think a longer delay might have benefited it, because the start of next year, the first quarter of next year, is so stacked with games. I think they probably want to come out. It's one of those games I think would benefit being out in a quiet time. I don't think it has the ability to compete with what's coming out at the start of next year.
No way.
We have the Game Awards next month. We might just get a load of announcements targeting the end of next year, so there might just be no good time for it to come out. So just get it. I mean, it's been in development for so long now. It's just get it out now. We shall see. You have to remember when we say it's been developed for so long, they just completely scrapped the original concept after about 4 or 5 years or whatever it was and started again.
Yeah, but as a consumer, it's the optics of it all. It's just come on, get it out. Your average Joe on the street isn't going to know it's been scrapped and restarted. They're just going to go, is that not out yet? Is that not out yet?
Well, if they listen to Talking the PS, they will.
It will. And if you don't, you won't hear this. Final few stories. The Crew 2, getting an update, Ubisoft's racing game. Surprisingly, I'm, again, expecting a Crew 3 at the next big Ubisoft thing. When they finally get Skull and Bones out next year, finally, they can pivot and tell us about the Crew 3. But until then, we've got a new 60 frame per second resolution patch on PS5. It's out now, and apparently makes the game run even smoother and better. So if you're a Crew 2 fan, go check that one out. Looks very exciting. And a few other updates. We've got Marvel's Avengers, Square Enix, are now in this weird place where technically the licensing belongs to Square Enix, but the developers now belong to Embracer. That's a weird one. The Winter Soldier finally arrives this month. November 29th is we get to see Captain America's Bucky Barnes show up with his metal arm. Of course, the last big update was the War for Wakanda DLC. The game's pretty much been radio silent since then, and then we're finally getting Winter Soldier. We still haven't got She-Hulk, which was a leak that happened months and months ago. I thought it was going to come out in tandem with the Disney Plus series. Missed that one. And then here we are apparently getting Winter Soldier off the back of the Black Panther movie coming out. So there just doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to this marketing. I've been a big defender of this game for quite some time. Richie, everyone knows your thoughts on it. I think it's safe to say between developers moving to different companies and licensing agreements, I think this game's probably finished now.
I think it's for the best everyone moves on from this game, to be honest.
Just like that. Did you ever play Marvel's Avengers, Rob?
For about an hour, and I just couldn't sustain it. I feel like I got everything out of that game in the first hour.
The campaign I genuinely enjoyed.
Yeah.
Like, the story stuff is actually generally good. It's just there's no substance beyond it.
That's true, to a degree. Anyway, then, final few stories. A bit of a funny one. Wanted to throw this one in there. Reading from Eurogamer, Marvel's Spider-Man Harry Osborn actor says he won't be returning in the PlayStation 5 sequel. And I quote, "I was bummed, but I get it." And I've put this as in our show notes as Harry Osborn actor bummed. And if you live in the UK, specifically the Northeast, being bummed means something very, very different. But he's bummed not to get it. Scott Porter, which actually Richie playing Ragnarok. I don't know if you've got to this character yet, but he does the voice.
I haven't.
You haven't? He does the voice of him, does a very good job in the character. He also he's been in a couple of things, but he seems to be an up and coming voice actor. So keep your eyes peeled for Scott Porter. He was disappointed, but apparently he's not back because Insomniac want to go down a more facial likeness. So if you remember, they redesigned Peter Parker in the original Spider-Man game when they did the remastered one. They swapped out his face. They deep faked him into somebody completely different, so it was closer to Yuri's, the voice actor, Yuri Rosenthal, I want to say, closer to his likeness, and it was easier to do the motion capture and the facial capture and stuff for him. It looks like they're going to do the same with Harry Osborn, so evidently Scott Porter doesn't look like the person they want Harry Osborn to look like, so they're going to recast him for his age and his facial structure. But we should point out, anyone who's played Spider-Man, he wasn't really in it. I think it was voice notes, if I recall, Richie. You just went around and collected voice notes. So, and then, so actually, he's going to be a bigger part of the sequel. We know that. So what better time to recast him? But it does sound like Scott Porter's disappointed to not be part of it. But the great thing with voice acting in video games is they could just recast her as somebody else.
It's not great for the voice actor, but it's weird. It's one of the things where I think voice acting in video games is coming closer now more to traditional acting, because with things like how much more motion cap is actually used in games, if you don't look the part, if you're not physically capable of the similar size and age and physical ability, then you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
Well, look at David Hayter got
He did, yeah.
dropped from the Metal Gear Solid series for Kiefer Sutherland, which
so random.
Yeah, but again, it was all down to being able to physically act it, I think. Yeah.
It's part of how games are made now.
Yeah.
But again, the great thing with video games is they can just straight up change your face to anything. So it's like, if they did another Uncharted game, I'd be like, well, just get Nolan North back. Just make someone else do all the physical, jumpy around, climby stuff, and just use him for the voice. But obviously, there will be something lost in that. But you're telling me the devs over at Naughty Dog can retroactively put someone's face on it and make it younger and such. But
I think with Nolan North and how iconic he is for that role, you'd put the effort in to do it. But for someone, unfortunately, for Scott Porter, who's just largely just voice notes, it's easier change.
Absolutely. And then final story, just a nice little funny one to end on for the week. In God of War Ragnarok, for those who are playing it, those of you know, you have Mimir, who's your kind of little head who sits on your waist and talks you through stories in your downtime as you're on the rowing boat or you're wandering around. And I don't know if you've came across this yet, Richie, but there's a part in it where Mimir actually references Kratos doing battle with beasts, scoundrels, princesses, the undead, automatons, and the history's greatest musician. Of course, he's referring to Sly Cooper, Sweet Tooth, Fat Princess, Sir Daniel Fortescue, Raiden, and Papa the Rapper. And Kratos responds with just saying, "I would not speak of this," but essentially making PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale game from the PlayStation Vita and PS3 era canon in the God of War franchise. And I just, when I read this article, I was like, that's just fucking brilliant. I love it. What do you think?
The best.
I haven't seen it. I think it's really easy to miss because it's just kind of party banter as you're walking around the world. And I think it is just a random prompt as well. It's not like
it's not
to
mission
do
time.
Something specific to trigger it. It's just one of them random like voice clips that Mamiya will just jump into.
Absolutely. I just think it's a fun little Easter egg for people who, like, if you know what he's talking about, you know. If you don't, it just sounds like a random, probably story from Greek mythology, which you're like, what the hell is he talking about here? Like fighting princesses and the undead. Like, I guess that could be part of when he killed Zeus and all the gods in Greece, but who knows? What happens in Sparta stays in Sparta. I will say as well. Yep, shoot.
I was like the Superport Entertainment, who made PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale, was set up by Shannon Studstill and Chan Park, who worked for Sony Santa Monica at the time.
Interesting. So
there is that kind of tenuous link between the developers. Unfortunately, Superport Entertainment is now defunct.
Definitely. All-Star Battle Royale, amazing. Battle Royale before Fortnite took the word Battle Royale and made it a different thing. Before we round up, Richie, God of War Ragnarok, have you noticed the other PlayStation Easter egg that's in there so far? I'm guessing no.
No.
When you're wandering around, there's Cassavetes poems you collect. It's just like little things you can find. Have a read of the poems, because each one of them describes a PlayStation exclusive game in a nice little poetic
I wonder
motion.
What they were. I've read them as like.
They don't make any sense.
Okay, these don't make sense. So it'll click at some point. I'm gonna have to reread them all.
So there's a few things to look out for. The cover of the book is some iconography from the exclusive game.
Yeah.
And then the poem references the game. And then, as you collect them all, they all reference PlayStation exclusives. I thought it was just a nice little Easter egg to find there. And I think it was the Horizon one that made me go like, what the hell is he on about? Metallic creatures or something from the underground. And I was like, that's a bit. And then I looked at the logo. I was like, that looks like the thing from Horizon. Oh, wait. I see what they're doing here. And then,
Then you went back and read the
rest of them. And I was like, that's cool. I like that. And if you go into your homestead place, all the books are on a shelf for you to look at. So, worthwhile. But Loving Ragnarok. We'll talk about that on our spoiler cast at some point. We'll get around to it. Rob will get around to it once he's landed his PS5. And we'll talk about it on here whilst we talk the PS every single week on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. This has been episode 23 of our weekly PlayStation podcast, Talking the PS. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, do all that magical jazz. If you do want to subscribe and support the channel a little bit more, you can click join down below. From as little as 99p, you get this show early, you get CloudQuest early, you get stickers, you get badges, another bunch of perks and content. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
And I've been Rob.
Have a great week, folks, and play whatever makes you the happiest. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.